Hi, I am the host of Lifestyles of the Clean and Sober. My name is Mickey, and I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict. I have not had anything to drink or use since March 25th, 1982. The purpose of this program is to show others that they too can stay clean and sober one day at a time for the rest of their lives. I will be interviewing people who have been successful to stay off drugs and alcohol for a period of time. Since I am the host, I will go first to share my experience, strength, and hope with you. I started drinking when I was 10 years old. The first thing I had was a beer, and I didn't even like the taste of it. But in true progressive form, about a year later, I was already drinking hard stuff. And then soon after that, I had gotten into marijuana and other drugs. I continued drinking and drugging for another 20 years. There were times when I could put it down, and I could leave it down for a short period of time. But once I picked up that first drink, that first pill, that first fix, whatever it was, I could not stay stopped. The worst of my addiction, I almost killed a police officer under the influence of drugs and alcohol. I abused my family. I was that tornado in the wind that I always thought that I was only hurting myself. But in reality, I was hurting my family. I found out later that my kids were afraid to see me come home because they wouldn't know what kind of shape I would be in. But none of that ever stopped me from drinking or using. It wasn't until I went to prison for almost killing that police officer in a total blackout. I had no guilt or remorse for my actions. And then after that, I got out, and I still continued drinking and drugging. And then my brother died of a heroin overdose, and I think that's really what got my attention. I was mad and angry at him for using, but I was doing the same thing with alcohol. Finally, one morning, I came to one more time after another blackout. But this time it was different. I felt that it was over. I didn't know exactly what that meant, but something had changed. I felt I couldn't go on living the way I had been living, because I wasn't even living, I was just surviving. With that, I went into a 28-day program, and I made a commitment to myself to do whatever it took to try to learn how to stay clean and sober for at least a year. After my 28-day program, it was suggested that I go into a men's recovery house. Another thing that I didn't want to do. But I had made a commitment, and I would remember my words. And so I did that. And I stayed there for about 6 months. In that time period, I saw a lot of men that would go back out, that get their families back, that get their jobs back, but that get into a bad state and they would relapse. I got to see the disease firsthand there. So that told me that I would have to be responsible for staying clean and sober. I would have to work the steps. I would have to make the amends. I would have to be serious about my recovery. Once I did that and got out on my own, I was very scared because I didn't know if I could stay clean and sober. But luckily, I met a lot of great old-timers, and they led the way. They led by powerful example. They never told me what to do. They just did it, and I watched them. As a result of that, I got into doing H&I work. I went to juvenile hall, the jails, the hospitals, and even prison. It was a long road, but it was worth it. There were times that I was in so much pain that I wanted to drink I wanted to use. I wanted to kill myself because I was in so much pain and grieving, and also in recovery. I lost people. I lost 2 sponsors. I lost the woman that I wanted to marry. I had a lot of trudging to do, but I stayed with it, and it was worth it because my life today is fantastic. So before I close, I want to take this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude for the program of Alcoholics and Narcotics Anonymous, without which I'd probably be in a hospital, a jail, a prison, an institution, or possibly even dead by my own hand due to untreated alcoholism and my isms as they relate to drug addiction and suicide. I hope that if you're new or you're considering this new way of life, that you take it serious. In the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it talks about Chapter 5. In Chapter 5 it says, "With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start." Again, I want to thank you for joining us, and I wish you the best in your recovery.